Well, hello everyone. Talk about here. Talk about with Happy Meal toys right here, and you see right here is this toy right here. Talk about for Disney Princess right here, and we talk about right here whenever it comes to Happy Meal toys, and talk about for the McDonald's Happy Meal toys right here, and so it sure seems that way that whenever we look at the toys like these, and you're likely want to know too a lot of times is that yeah, if you're trying to show somebody a certain dance, or maybe like yeah dressing up to something nice or anything like that. And a lot of times it sure seems that way is toward it different ways of how to talk about is that whenever it comes to Happy Meal toys, to talk about for the Disney Princess right here. And so it sure seems that way that yeah that is that the girl going maybe talking about is to where she can actually dance, just by standing on one foot or something like that, or have like what you call that fancy dress, had that fancy dress to where she can just go ahead and like, yeah, kind of like a ballerina where she can just do like what you call turn around, do the turn around and all that. And but it sure seems that way that a lot of times that whenever it comes to understanding about that princesses and along with the princess and the princes and princesses and all that, and you likely want to know too is to where the yeah, you go ahead and start a conversation, and let's just say that if you're gonna go ahead and say is to where that yeah that whenever it comes to princess right here, and so it sure seems that way is to where the yeah that whenever it comes to talking about plastic though, and a lot of time like yeah, if we're talking about toys, yeah, especially the ones that are battery operated. So let's just say that if we're talking about the certain kind of toys that are battery operated, or the ones that would have like the voice commands and all, but still that we're talking about with the toys right here. And so it's like yeah, so let's just say that if we're gonna be maybe using like yeah, this right here would be like a collection right here of like the Disney Princess right here. And so it sure seems that way is toward the yeah that yeah at talking about that the type of a princess toward it, like everybody else would say too, is toward it one way of how you want to call it is toward it talk about maybe a cool toys is toward that maybe if you go ahead and yeah if you want to go ahead and maybe attach a magnet right there on the back to where you can actually mount that mount this right here like on the top, like yeah, if we're talking about with the toy right here that you can actually use this right here to be able to mount it somewhere. And let's just say that yeah maybe put like a little magnet right on the back or something like that, or just something like that. But still that but I have right here of talking about the Disney Princess right here. And so like yeah, this right here is supposed to be like a little showroom, like yeah, like a palace or something like that right there. And also talk about for princess right here. So it's like yeah that a lot of guys would say too that if you're gonna go and be telling the story about the princess right here, and like yeah the princess like yeah the princess's dances, and also just knowing about is as to where that yeah the good the best ways of how to be able to get to know the princess also. And like 102 is toward the yeah that the ones that have the sparkly shine, or maybe if it's anything about the ones that know how to dance very well. But it sure seems that way that when we talk about certain girls' toys, and people might like 102 that yeah, well really though that the type of toys for what we call is like the one like yeah, but still it's like yeah whenever if you're gonna be like yeah, most kids would say too that if you're gonna go ahead and be enjoying a Happy Meal toy, then you would like to have a certain character, right? A certain character, and one of those characters is maybe going to be like a certain character that's going to represent for a certain Disney movie, right? And so you're probably thinking too that looking at these characters right here, and 102 that yeah, you have a character, and let's just say that if you have like a certain collection of all those characters, and 102 that yeah, you go ahead and get a certain character, and then that with that character that character is maybe going to have like yeah, this is like yeah the with this princess character right here. Just 102 the details about the name of the character, and also the type of dresses and all that they wear. But I just want to talk everybody here too, but talk about for girls' toys because it sure seems that way to where that whenever you first start a conversation with somebody, then a lot of times it sure seems that way to where that you want to try to impress them somehow, right? You want to try to impress them. So it sure seems that way that you want to start out with to where that the girl's toy is maybe going to be is to where, yeah, you go ahead and start the conversation by saying, hello. Or, it's like you say that, yeah, you start the conversation by holding the toy up like this right here, and like you do like the ballet dance or something like that. So it sure seems that way that, yeah, that when we talk about for any sorts of toys, though, right here in 102, a lot of times, it's like, a lot of times it's, I'm like, yeah, that, you tell people, I'm like, yeah, well, really, that just because, like anybody say too, that just because it's not battery operated, what all can you really do with the toy, really? But still, but there's certain things for what you can do with the toy right here, and I'll go and show everybody here that whenever it comes to starting a conversation, whenever it comes to understanding about, whenever it comes to yeah, that using girls' toys a lot of times, and it sure seems that way that yeah, if you're gonna be talking about like yeah, to reading a story to maybe to the younger kids, and a lot of times it sure seems that way that yeah, that you go ahead and read a story to the younger kids, and maybe you want to know too is to where that for what makes princess is to where yeah, whenever she's able to gain powers and gain strength, and also that there's like what you call that dress that she's wearing, and like it makes it special, right? But on the other hand too, that the type of tease that I was also thinking about too is to where that whenever it comes to understand, like yeah, whenever about plastic, and like a lot of times it sure seems that way that if you were to start a conversation with any source of girl or anybody, any ladies, a lot of times, and at the time you want to know too is to where that you probably want to know too is to where that yeah, well really that really whenever it comes to talking about plastic, or whenever it comes to talking about maybe paper made products or anything like that, and you want to know too is to where the yeah, well really that whenever it comes to plastic made materials or something like that, but still that you have right here with Princess, there was Disney Princess right here, right? And it sure seems that way to where that you want to start the conversation with the lady, and let's just say that if you were to start the conversation by saying this to where the yeah, well really that you have right here with Princess right here, but of course that like yeah, if it doesn't stick, or maybe if that if anything that if it's not a pen or something like that, what exactly is it? And so it sure seems that way that yeah, if you're trying to impress the ladies in a lot of ways, impress the girls in a lot of ways, and let's just say if you show them this right here, and people I likely think is to where really that okay, yeah, that will really what is it? And like a lot of times it sure seems that way that you first want to start the conversation by stating as to where that yeah, this right here, yeah, it's something that you can go ahead and keep on your dresser, on the top of your dresser right here. Like set it next to your lamp or something. So it's like, yeah, like this right here, will be something that, yeah, you'll go ahead and put that, right, like, yeah, a Happy Meal toy. You'll be able to place that right there on your dresser, right? And a lot of times it sure seems that way that are we going to maybe think about as to where the, yeah, you get a toy like this in 102 is to where, okay, what exactly is it? But it's like, yeah, that, so if we were to be talking a story about, for anything, talk about for Disney Princess right here, and you want to know too is to where that between the girls' toys and the boys' toys a lot of times, and like I think is to where, yeah, well, just because, I'm like, yeah, this right here may be made out of plastic, but on your hand too, that really, can it really, show you a lot of interesting things. And like anybody say too that whenever it comes to understanding about Happy Meal toys, and you want to know too that yeah, like yeah, pieces, game pieces especially. So let's just say that if you're playing like an activity game, and like any source of activity though, that you want to go ahead and maybe use this right here as like a game piece, like yeah, like a piece to where that you're trying to get together. I'm like, yeah, you're trying to piece together a story, and let's just say that if you were to use this character right here as a character, as a piece, and so this character right here, like let's just say that the character is going to be moving around, and let's just say that going from the front entrance door, or maybe walking into the car or something like that, or maybe walking into the, like, yeah, going from the kitchen to the living room, or maybe from the dance floor or something. I'm like, oh yeah, so it's like, yeah, going to a party or something like that. So you're going to use a character right here, and let's just say that character is maybe going to represent to where you're going to be going to a dance party or something like that, or going to going to a gathering or some sort of event in 102 is to where you try to picture in your mind to where what exactly, how is it that you want to oppose, and then if you're trying to dance, or if you're trying to show somebody something interesting in 102 about how you want to pose to in front of somebody, like in 102, that yeah, well, you go ahead and show somebody about the things that you can do, especially. And but talk about right here, talk about for made like yeah, made it between wooden pieces and plastic, or anything like that. But a lot of times it sure seems that way, do you really want to tell anybody that is toward if you're trying to get something to stick, and a lot of times people want to know too is toward what's going to be interesting topic whenever it comes to you're playing with certain toys a lot of times. And it sure seems that way, that it's all about the common sense to where you go ahead and show somebody, okay, what is this right here, and what is it supposed to do? And let's just say that if you were to tell somebody that, once you get a Happy Meal toy like this, if anything, you can go and put it on the top of the dresser like this right here. I'm like, yeah, put it on top of the dresser right there, and just to kind of tell people, like, yeah, the things that you've been doing all week long, that things, like the things that you found out, like, yeah, the things interesting that's been going on. And a lot of times it sure seems that way, that do kids a lot of times think that way, to where you go and put that on your dresser drawer like that. I'm like, yeah, put that on your dresser right there in 102. That, yeah, well, really, what's really amazing about that? And like anybody say that, yeah, really, does that really tell our kids really anything? But a lot of times it's like, well, really, you want to go ahead and read them a story about anything interesting that's been going on during the week at the practice a lot of times. And it sure seems that way, that yeah, well, it could also be maybe an interesting dress, or maybe interesting collage or something like that you got. And 102, that yeah, you receive a Happy Meal toy, and you want to know too is toward anything interesting about that. Well, really, you're trying to talk to the ladies a story about something, and let's just say that if you were to tell them a story about that, is toward it, yeah, well, this is how we met right here. How we met is toward it. I was actually working on something, and with that something, it's going to be is toward it, yeah, you were working on something until that somebody else, you were able to meet somebody else, and then, that somebody else was able to see something that you were doing. And, so it sure seems that way, to where that, whenever it comes to toys and maybe the reality story or something like that, but a lot of times it sure seems that way, that, if you can maybe picture in your mind about is toward that, this right here is supposed to be like a character right here, toward it, yeah, you're going to maybe use this right here as like an example of like a friendship relationship or something like that. And you want to know too that, yeah, the game piece moves like this right here. The game piece right here moves like this, and then until you're able to get it to turn around, and then also that, any sorts of action features or anything like that. And I want to know too that, yeah, well, really, that, whenever it comes to, maybe putting the toy in your pocket especially. So let's just say that, if you're going to be looking at the toy, and let's just say that if you put it in your pocket like that. So let's just say if I put the toy in my pocket just like that right there in 102, that what exactly do you think people are thinking about whenever they see something like that in your pocket? I'm like, yeah, if you're going to be walking around and you see a toy like that, and what exactly do you think that people are thinking about whenever they see that? I'm like, well, really, that just to make the long story short, though, is that yeah, that I actually put this in my pocket right here, just because, just to kind of give me a better idea whenever I do walk into the library, whenever I walk into the store, though, that a lot of times it's like, yeah, well, really, that does that really remind you of anything whenever you put something like that in your pocket? But a lot of times it sure seems that way. That like everybody else would say too, that really more likely that looks a little bit more like a souvenir. But still, if we're talking about the Disney character toys right here, and 102, that let's just say that if you were to tell somebody that tell the lady though that not to be made as to where the story is not made out of plastic or nothing, but still that if we were to tell a story about us as to where that's how we met right there, this is how we met right here, that you actually like yeah, that goes by saying this toward the Happy Meal toy. You bought it. You bought it a meal just to check it out about what was available in that meal and all that, and then you had this toy right here. And 102, is that toy really going to tell you a story about how is it that you were able to meet somebody? So that's something to think about, really, ain't it? I'm like, whenever you do tell somebody a story about something, that you probably thinking too is toward that yeah, that how is it that you were able to meet somebody? And a lot of times it's like, really though, that does it really have to be made out of plastic, or does it have to be made out of wood, just to be able to make any sense? But on the other hand too, though, that like people might even say too, that do you really even have to wear it just for that person to understand, just for that partner to understand? But it sure seems that way, that whenever it comes to understanding about toys, though, and a lot of times it sure seems that way to where that can a toy really tell the story? But it sure seems that way that knowing about it, say, like talk about for the Happy Meal toys. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone.